Imagine if everything went according to our plans. Life would be a whole different ballgame, and that's a big part of growing up, whether we like it or not. So, what do we do when life doesn't play by our rules? Well, that's where solo travel comes in. You can't always travel with the people you want, and you're getting older, so this is your last chance. It's scary at first, and you'll always be questioning yourself at the start of each trip, but you forget about it as soon as you're actually on the journey, and it always gets better after that. Stepping out of our comfort zones can be nerve-wracking, but it's an essential part of personal growth. When things don't go as expected, and our confidence takes a hit, a solo trip can be the perfect catalyst for self-discovery and empowerment. It was a random Tuesday in September, and I had no specific plans. I had some leaves, though, so I decided to take a spontaneous trip. I looked up some relaxing destinations, but driving a two-wheeler through one of the world's most dangerous roads caught my eye. I've always wanted to do it, but I always doubted myself. The thought of the tedious journey on a heavy bike was a bit daunting, but this time I needed a confidence booster. So, on that fine Tuesday, I made a booking for a Saturday trip to the Spiti Valley, starting from Chandigarh. Have you ever wondered what holds us back from achieving our dreams? I never imagined I could drive until I rented an SUV in Scotland and spent 4 thrilling days on the road. And let me tell you, I was doubting myself when I tried riding a heavy bike up mountains. The truth is, it's our thoughts that often keep us from doing great things in life. Sometimes all we need is an unexpected situation to push us out of our comfort zone and finally take action. Day 1. On Saturday morning, I hopped on the Vande Bharat Express from Delhi and arrived in Chandigarh in the afternoon. As part of our plan, we were supposed to check into the hotel in Chandigarh and then pick up our bikes the next day to start our adventure. At this point, we didn't know how many people would be joining us. The first day is always a bit chilly, especially if you're new and don't know anyone yet. Everyone's a stranger, and your introverted side might feel a bit overwhelmed. We all knew that the rooms would be double or triple sharing. When I checked in, I found out that my roommate had already checked in. I was a bit nervous about who I'd be sharing a room with and how they'd be. This was the person I was going to be sharing a room with for the rest of the trip. Guess what? I met this super cool 65-year-old guy who lives closer to Assam. We had a great chat for about an hour and discovered that he's a seasoned traveler. It was awesome to connect with someone like him. I often think I should travel more often, because who knows if I'll have the same energy when I'm older. But this guy showed me that age is just a number. We talked about how these travel destinations looked 40 years ago, and how the Amarnath Yatra looked 40 years back before it caught the attention of terrorists. And now, in your own country, you need to be protected by over 60,000 soldiers to practice your own religion in your own country. We had to go about 30 minutes away to fetch our bikes later in the evening. Talk about a hassle. But hey, we finally got the bikes and headed back to the hotel for dinner. Back then, we didn't know each other well. We just exchanged a friendly greeting when we were getting the bikes. We all knew we'd be traveling together, though. There were 2 tempo travelers to fit about 30 more people, so it was definitely a big group. Next day, after breakfast, we left from Chandigarh for Nakanda. It was a 175 km drive that would easily take 8 to 10 hours stops. We bid farewell to the bustling city streets and embarked on a thrilling journey to the mountains. After an hour of riding, we started our descent when I noticed that my rear brake wasn't working. Everyone was ahead of me since I'm a bit of a slowpoke, and in such situations, the usual plan was to overtake the marshal and let him know about the issue. But this time I couldn't do that. Driving at high speed on a winding mountain downhill without the rear brake could be a real disaster. So, I decided to keep riding at my own pace. A few minutes later, I realized that 4 of my companions were also having the same problem. We all decided to pull over at a safe spot. The great thing about planning trips in groups is that you always have someone to lend a hand in case of any issues. A few minutes later, the backup vehicle arrived and told us to wait for 10 minutes or drive in first or second gear and let the brake pad cool down. We waited patiently and then left. And guess what? The rear brake was working perfectly fine. Next stop was Shimla. We stopped there for lunch. We parked our bikes and then had an hour to roam around and have lunch. Next we left for Narkanda. I was the last one in the trail, and while leaving Shimla when we came across a dusky road, and that's where everyone took a right that I could not see and continued driving strings. A few minutes later I was concerned when I could not spot anyone else for over 10 minutes. I inquired about the way with someone, and he told me that I was on the wrong way and needed to go back. I did not believe that, as I was driving straight and tailing the person ahead of me and didn't see them taking any turn. So I drove a few more kims, and that's when my gut told me to double check. I checked on maps, and yes, I was on the wrong way. So I took the right turn and met up with the rest of the team in an hour. Next, we hit the road for the last part of and drove through the foggy mountains until we reached our place, which was just a few kilometers from Narkanda. Thanks for watching the first part of the video. Stay tuned for the rest.